This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Well, guys, as you download this podcast this morning, 11 o'clock, Dan Campbell will officially talk to the media a couple days after Brad Holmes addressed the media. It's now official. The Detroit Lions' Big Two have been established, and Adam and I are going to break it down this week. We're going to look at our concerns regarding the coaching staff and which assistants Dan Campbell could bring here, and we'll end the podcast with a little talk about Urban Meyer and the relationship with Jim Harbaugh. Obviously, Urban Meyer stepped himself way up, got himself a nice fat contract from the Khan family, and it was interesting to see that dynamic of Saad Khan having a Zoom meeting right next to Urban Meyer. To see the split screen, I sent you the photo. And we'll talk all about it. We'll share the laugh, the inside stuff that Adam and I talked about, because it's funny, it's classic, and we'll talk all about it because maybe, just maybe, Urban Meyer trolled Jim Harbaugh. Stay tuned for later on in the podcast. We'll talk about that, because it does not appear that you're as thrilled as many of the fans are regarding this new arranged marriage. Everybody's talking about it. Brad Holmes was the guy that the Lions targeted to be their general manager, and now Dan Campbell, the assistant head coach and tight ends coach for the Saints. No coordinator experience, part of the Lions lore in that he was a member of the 0-16 roster. You know, a tight end, a big dude, a strapping dude, could be a wrestler, a rah-rah guy, a motivational leader, probably somebody that wowed the pants off of the Ford family and Chris Spielman. But you and I are here to kind of say, pump the brakes, guys. Look, experience does matter to some degree, so while it's cool, it's unique that this arranged marriage is going down, if you're like me and you have gone up and down with the plight of the Lions, you already go into it thinking it's going to take a miracle to achieve any sort of competitive advantage and win. So if they were even to hire Tomlin and Colbert, you and I would go, okay, that's good, but there's still a chance of failure. To go lack of experience, and then the coordinators you're hearing also lack experience. This is unique at the highest level. So to be skeptical, I think, is the starting point, because this is crazy. Dan Campbell, secured 6 years from the Lions, man.
So let's start right there. Because I think what that tells you is that they understand that this has to be a rebuild. Like, I know what Brad Holmes said in his press conference. It's more of a retooling than a rebuild, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But I think with this signing, because we put our show sheet together late Tuesday night, we put our show sheet together, and then Dan Campbell gets hired midday Wednesday, and the term retooling has been kicked around quite a bit since Brad Holmes has basically taken his seat as GM. But when you sign a head coach for 6 years, most coaches get anywhere from 4 to 5. He's getting 6. And your last head coach didn't even get 3. That tells me that this front office at least understands that there's a ton of work that has to get done. There is a lot that has to get either broomed out and brought in, or pieces have to be flipped. This is going to be a very eventful offseason as we approach the NFL draft. I can't wait for the NFL draft because I'm curious what's going to happen here. I don't know if Matt Stafford's going to be traded away or not. It would make sense because you need more draft capital. He's a guy who could get you the most, especially with a guy like Phillip Rivers just retiring. Indianapolis is a prime spot for a guy like Matt Stafford to go and win immediately. But I don't know if they're going to do that or not. But with a head coach who's never actually been a head coach before, gets 6 years, it tells you a little bit about what the front office believes in this team. And it tells you a little bit about what the front office is seeing with this team. Now, all that being said, I think my big concerns, and probably your big concerns, come with this very front office. To me, it seems like they have this very overcomplicated hierarchy system for the Detroit Lions. And sitting at the head of all of it is not Sheila Hamp. Instead, it's Rod Wood, a guy who a couple of months ago came out and told me he knows absolutely nothing about football. Yet he has positioned himself in such a way where during Brad Holmes' press conference on numerous occasions, he had said that Brad Holmes is going to report to him. He would then later follow it up, and Sheila, but it was, he's going to report to me. They will report to me. They'll report to me. Oh, and Sheila. That's how it was. It seems to me as though Sheila has almost stepped away and said, hey, Rod, this is going to be your project, which scares the hell out of me. And there are so many different moving parts in this front office, whether it's Brad Holmes being the general manager but taking on more of a scouting role, or we didn't even hear of Mike Disner until recently. And Mike Disner is a holdover from the Patricia Quinn era, which is strange to me. If you're going to redo everything, you're going to broom people out, broom everybody out. Don't keep this guy just because he's a capologist. I don't care. But Mike Disner is going to take on more of an elevated role. Mind you, they made it really clear that Mike Disner was the guy who found Holmes, which again makes it a little bit strange for me, because if you're Holmes, how are you going to go to the guy who basically helped you secure your job and then give him any type of harsh feedback about what he's doing? And again, it's just another spoon in the pot, stirring it all around, because after that, it gets even more convoluted with hiring your head coach, who has zero head coaching experience, hiring your assistants, who at this point, they were all position coaches. None of them have been an actual coordinator. So who's actually going to be putting the plays together and drawing things up? I mean, it's a huge leap. And for an organization that is coming off of a lot of turmoil and a very, very bumpy road, the one thing we said, yeah, go get your culture guy, right? If you're gonna go hire Dan Campbell, go get your culture guy. Because like I told you in a tweet, I love Dan Campbell from a culture standpoint. I do not like him from an X's and O's standpoint. Whatever it is, he's your culture guy, fine, all right? But you better go get some really damn good assistants. Yeah. You better go get some really good coordinators who know what the hell they're doing and can diagram some plays. Instead, you're going and getting a couple of his boys who are position coaches, and now you're looking at quarterback coaches as possibly your offensive coordinators. I'm not saying that it can't work, but what I'm telling you is if you're a Detroit Lions fan, you should have a lot of concern, because this is not giving you your best chance to succeed.
Yeah, it's crazy because it's like this is not kind of what we were sold. We were kind of hoping for an exhaustive search and to hire the best of the best, at least start at the coordinator level. My God, they went Campbell. They went a guy that knows the history. And I guess we should have saw it coming when Spielman was hired, that when he basically revealed it. And when you listen to these pressers, listen to the words because they reveal it. He said when he got hired that an organization can't win with an us versus them mentality, which speaks directly to Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, who probably, bottom line, were like, dude, why the hell are we going to talk to Rod Wood? Stay away from me. I'll report to you every 2 months and I'll give you the update. And then they were like, there's kind of a revolt going on in the locker room. They're like, yeah, too bad. We're going to get rid of them all. And Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia probably were like, they probably huddled up in the corner and were like, how the hell do we deal with these people? Now, in terms of Rod Wood, the change is not going to be on a decision-making thing. You know he's not going to be like, do this and do that. What he is he's the guy that is the CEO and is going to facilitate everything. He basically has knowledge, and he is somebody.
But what knowledge? He's the guy who came out and basically cut his own legs off by saying, I don't know anything about football.
Meaning he oversees everything. He's the foreman. You know, the foreman that's like the guy that has no experience hitting a hammer to a nail, but he's the foreman because he's the boss's nephew, and he gets to walk over everything, and he's like, okay, what's happening here? And then whenever Sheila rings, he's going to be like, okay, this is what's going on. He's not making any decisions. He's just aware. He's the point person. So that part of it, I don't care. Do I need him there? No. I think the Lions could save a couple $100,000 and just whack him. You don't need him. You don't need a point person. What you've done is, in essence, okay, which I understand the idea of hierarchy of control and chain of command, but I'm more of a guy that says it should be Brad Holmes and everybody reports to Brad Holmes and Brad reports to Sheila. You don't need that extra Rod Wood to know things. But what's Sheila going to do? Because she's not, listen, she's just there to say, okay, how many millions more did we get this month? Okay, good. Are we winning? Are we close? Okay. Rod's going to be the one that's going to be in the shit listening to everything and being part of the meeting. So you have to have somebody do that. Is he going to have influence? Would it be great to have a person in that spot that actually knows football that could facilitate more knowledge? You could absolutely upgrade from Rod Wood. No problem there. But the problem with Brad Holmes is he took this job knowing that they stripped him of really the full range of the job. It's like, you're good at scouting, do that. You got this guy, Disner, he's a cap guy. He'll run everything else for you. You just find the talent, which is fine. But no, other general managers obviously picked up on something, and it was reported that probably the top name guys looked at everything. They didn't have to really go to the interview to understand the management structure, that the way this was going to work. So this is why you get Brad Holmes. And unfortunately, it's just going to be a situation where we have to expect that he over-delivers because of the fact that he was 4th, 5th in command with the Rams, but he did run the draft. If he can just pick good players in the draft, I don't care that he's not really displaying the full range of GM powers, that he's got to work through a coalition. But if he doesn't, then you're going to have power struggles. You don't think that a guy like Mike Disner goes potentially one time to Rod Wood, I could do this job. I could do this better than him. Look what I can do. I run the cap. I do this. You don't think that potentially Brad Holmes has got to look over his shoulder? And like you said, at first he's going to be loyal because Disner picked him out. But you don't think within a moment's notice, if this goes south and 3 years in, there's no winning, you could potentially start to know now who the next GM could be. You stay with Disner.
Well, that's my point, though. Like, the way this whole structure is set up,
chaotic.
If you're Brad Holmes, like, why would you even take this position?
Cash,
it seems like
money.
It is set up to where if you do start to fail, the next guy's already in the building.
Exactly.
And why is this next guy still here? Why didn't he get broomed out with everybody else?
That's the best question you ask, is why would somebody take this job? Security and millions, a huge pay grade, and you got some power. I mean, Brad Holmes is going to pick the players, and that would give him the ultimate really benefit that everybody will give him all the credit and him all the blame. But I think that he's going to be put in a position to do less work, which maybe is what the Lions are thinking, is like, look, maybe we gave Bob too much responsibility and it resulted in the reason why the organization didn't run right, or he was too ego-driven. But this has a chance to work if Brad Holmes really understands what a rebuild is, which is understand that this roster probably has 10 players or less that you want to build with, and then you just go all over,
I want you to pause right now. I want you to pause right now. You said 10 players
there's
to
10.
build with. You said 10.
Yeah.
All right, let's go through and let's name these players.
Okay.
Because I'll give you Matt Stafford, because I think he's still a pretty good quarterback. I think you should trade him.
I wasn't even going to do that. I was going to start with, on the defensive side, you got two defensive backs. You got Amani Oruwariye and you got Jeff Okudah.
Okay, I'll give you Okudah, maybe. And I like Oruwariye. I think next year he should take another big step, and I think he's a serviceable NFL player.
Jeez, okay, you're a tough crowd. Obviously,
what about Tracy Walker? Do you like Tracy Walker?
I think in the right position, absolutely, Tracy Walker makes the list. Okay?
So we'll say 3 on defense then.
Okay, no, there's more. Austin Bryant is somebody you can grow with. Clemson.
How many games has he played this year?
5, 6.
Bro. Come on,
yes,
for real?
there are concerns that he's injury prone.
You've seen tape to where you're like, yeah, that's a guy I want to build around.
Yes, obviously he's a big
at his
dude.
Tape and I'm like, that's a guy with a bunch of question marks.
I think that you're a little wary of his injury situation, but okay, that's fine. It's not universal. But Macaroon, the GM, has an eye for talent, and this guy's sticking around. Austin Bryant, Julian Okwara. Okay, I think, and Romeo Okwara if he stays here. So that's
I love Romeo Okwara. I've loved Romeo Okwara since the day he's been here.
Exactly.
I thought that was a shrewd move by Quinn. Okay,
and now
give him credit there. Julian Okwara, I know nothing about.
Right.
He hardly played this year.
You can build around him. He's got the intangibles. I think if you put him in the right defensive scheme, he'll pressure. He'll be able to at least be serviceable in
what
defense.
Is that defensive scheme? What is that? What is that cornerbacks coach going to draw up? Oh, I mean, your new defensive coordinator. What is he going to draw up?
He's going to draw up pressure, baby. He's going to draw up zone situations, potential disguise situations, the ability to pressure the quarterback, all-out ability to stop the run.
Let me ask you this. Do you think they switch from a 4-3 to a 3-4?
I probably maybe a hybrid, but I think they should consider a 4-3, 3-4. Either way, whatever gets the most pressure to the quarterback is fine by me. If you utilize the jack linebacker a little bit more, fine. Now, can you build around Jamie Collins? No, but you can have him on the roster for one more year because of the number that he has. So now let's switch to the offense. The entire offensive line is decent. I'll
give you that.
You got
that offensive line's very good.
Ragnow, exactly. That's another name to the list. You got Taylor Decker, Jonah Jackson, DeAndre Swift. That's 9 right there. So, and if you want to just have developmental quarterback and David Blau, there's a 10. There's 10 players right there you can build around. And
say David Blau.
Yeah, he could be number 3 for a while, and maybe potentially be a guy that if you need him can be the number 2 for a while. You have him in the system for 2 years. Somebody saw something in him, so that's a guy that can be on the roster. That's 10 players right there. The rest I don't need. So there are players that you can have on this roster. But remember, cause 43 other players that you can broom in and handle. And then, like I said, you got backups that can have roles on this team. Obviously, Jack Fox is another name, a punter. You got 10 players that you can start with to say, okay, these are 10. And then you go from there and you start in the draft. It's going to be slow. And that's why I say that Dan Campbell's agent and himself are very smart to ask for that 6th year, because year 1 is a wash. You got nothing. You're potentially moving on from Stafford. You're going to have Dan Campbell in town for 3 full years. After 3 years, probably depending on the years that he got per his time, I think that it's going to be manageable. He got the 6th year because year 1 is going to be a trial situation, because you're going to overhaul this roster and the cap is decreasing. So there's going to be some tough times in Detroit for the next couple of years. It's a rebuild. We know it, cuz. You and I know it. They know it too. They just can't say it because they got one aspect that they're worried about is they have to sell tickets. And you can't say we're tanking openly because of the fact that you're going to freak out all the season ticket holders and you're going to diminish the customers. So you say, we're going to try to field the most. That's a great line. We should write it down. We're going to try to field the most competitive team possible every single time. Yeah, but we're going to, blow up the defense and try to figure it out.
Let me ask you this then. If the retool is actually a rebuild, which we both hope it is, okay? We hope that Brad Holmes understands enough of this roster to realize, like, hey, you're deficient in a lot of areas. You don't have a ton of draft capital this year. What do they do with Matthew Stafford to make this team better in the future?
Pick up the phone and call the fucking Colts right now. 1st and a 3rd. And then you tell them, the Saints are calling and offering a 1st, a 2nd, and a 3rd. And then you call the Saints and you say, the Colts are offering a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and a 4th. What do you got?
Wait,
and you start
who's
bullshitting.
Doing this? Is Brad doing this, or is Will doing this?
No, Brad is doing this.
Or it's not even Will. I just always want to mess his name up.
No, Brad is doing the work. What Mike Disner's doing is telling him,
Mike Disner, yes, Mike Disner. I want to be like Will Disner.
Yeah, what Mike Disner's doing is saying, okay, if we trade Stafford, we're going to save this much, but we have to then look at this. The cap is this. He's going to have to advise on that scenario. But you can make it happen. You can cut deals. You can extend and renegotiate. That's what Mike's job is like, hey, make it so that I can do this and sign these players. And if you can't, okay, make it so that we look like we're competitive, but we're going to get our ass beat. But the first thing you should do is try to pick up one draft pick. Even if you can trade down to a team in the 20s and pick up the 7th and the 24th pick, any team that can offer their late first rounder for Stafford, you make the deal. Or the other thing you start doing is you call Houston and say, all right, how much of our future do we got to mortgage to get Deshaun Watson? What do we need? You need this year's first, next year's first, and the 2023 first? All right, I'll get back to you. I'm offering up every first-round pick possible, and then what I'm doing is I'm trying to trade as many people as I can to get and return some draft capital. So what you do is you trade some here, and you focus more on the 2nd and 3rd round, because Brad Holmes has done it. He's drafted the last 3 to 4 years without a first-round pick. He can do it. But I think you got to target the quarterback. You got to find your solution to Stafford, target your quarterback, and identify what you're going to do with Galladay, and those are the key pressing decisions. I trust that Brad Holmes is going to make fundamentally sound decisions. I do not believe he will have multiple Eric Ebrons on his resume. I don't see that happening. Could there be one? Yeah, of course. But are you going to see a Tease Tabor, a Jelani Tavai on his record? I highly, highly doubt it. I think he's going to find good guys that are going to come in here, work hard, be passionate, and help turn this around. This is not going to be a Bob Quinn trying to reach at different spots and take players at way higher value than what you could have got. I think you're going to find that Holmes will find steals in the later rounds at wide receiver. He'll rebuild this, but the bottom line is you can bring talent, but what are the coaches going to do with them? Are they going to be put in good positions? What is Dan Campbell going to do 4th and 1 on the opposition's 49-yard line and you're down 3 late in the game when you need the win? Do you go for it? Do you punt? Do you trust? That intuition has to be developed over time. It's not going to happen right away. So I think that the Lions just want to have someone that they trust, that they can work with. I'm so fascinated to hear what Dan Campbell is going to say today at his presser. What one question is most intriguing to you? Because most people asked the fair questions to Brad Holmes, but he was super PR and tight-lipped in regards to Stafford, the roster. I had asked him regarding his message, and he did say trust the process. He said process so much, I kept saying process, and he even had to clarify, like, what do you mean by process? And what I really wanted to ask directly was, when's the team going to start fucking winning? And basically, I asked it in 2 different ways. But, he said trust the process, going to be diligent, and I don't think that the winning is going to start at least until 2022, 2023. You got to build a roster and get them coached up. But what one question are you dying to hear from the media to the new head coach, Dan Campbell?
I want to know what he's looking for, what he values in his coordinators.
Okay.
Because this is a guy, again.
Anybody that'll pick up the phone? has little to no experience as a head coach. So you're going to have to lean heavily on your coordinators, especially from an X's and O's standpoint. Now, that being said, I don't think that Dan Campbell is some idiot. He's some boob off the street. I mean, he's a guy who is very gregarious, very charismatic. I would say he's almost Mike Vrabel-like. He's a guy who I could see you wanting to play up for, which is something that the Lions haven't had. They haven't had that with Matt Patricia. But all that being said, when it comes down to crunch time, you just seen a spectacular play. We watched it together. You showed up at my house, and everybody, you talk about me always balling out of control. Guys, this man shows up at my condo with hats in hand and then drinks for days. I'm talking 2 cases of beverages that are of the alcoholic nature and a bottle of wine. And he's like, hey, here you go. And I was like, bro, me and you both sat on my couch and watched. We watched a genius at work with Andy Reid when it was 4th and 1 with a backup quarterback in a spot where if you can get, basically it was 6 inches. If you can get 6 inches, you're going to win the game. And Andy Reid did something that was crazy. He ended up throwing the ball with his backup quarterback. It was nuts. You could have handed the ball off and ran it. You could have did a fake. You could have did just about anything else. You could have been safe and scared money, and you could have punted. But instead, Andy Reid went for it, and he threw the ball, which was absolutely bonkers. Is Dan Campbell capable of that? Does he have the IQ to be able to do something like that? And I'm not sure if he does because he's not been put in that spot. He's not had to do that. So what are you going to do with your coordinators? How are you going to lean on them to be able to tell you, hey, look, Matt Stafford is great at 4th and 1, and he plays with a lot of speed and pace. We've got a play that's going to get us the 1 yard that we need, and we're going to seal this victory, and we're going to go on and play for a playoff game. I mean, that's where we're at right now. I mean, we're talking Kansas City Chiefs going on to play for the AFC Championship game. And here in Detroit, we just want to win a damn playoff game. We just want to get to a playoff game. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the disparity is so crazy to me. So who are you going to lean on to be able to do that? Because not trying to be a jerk, you don't have that in your repertoire right now. You just don't.
Now, if I wanted to sink my career and end it all in one shot, I could potentially just raise my hand, get in the chat, and be like, okay, Dan, I'm John Macaron with SI and Detroit Sports Podcast. As a homosexual reporter, are we going to have an issue? I wonder who's going to ask that question. I mean, like, man, the Free Press dug that up, and he's like, damn, I'm still coming here. I think that it's behind him. I really do think that the time that they give these guys to prepare, they got boards up, they know who's going to ask what. He's got his answers ready, and I really think he's going to come through the video screen like pumped up like a promo style. I want to bring back Detroit. One pride, baby. Me and Brad are tired of this narrative. We're tired of seeing I was on the team that lost, and I'm tired of sitting back and being a laughingstock. He's got to show some passion, and he'll be contrite and said, yeah, I was dumb, young and dumb, and now he should say, as a 22-year-old, I was young and dumb and stupid. I would never believe that as a 45-year-old married man, and I'm all about inclusion. And I don't think there's a question that could be asked that he hasn't already come across in his practice for this. It's going to be about your history, your lack of experience, how are you going to coach the team, what are you going to do about Stafford, what are you going to do about your assistants, and what do you make of this relationship you're going to have with the front office? Beyond that, there's not a lot of things that you can shock him with other than to say, why would you take this job? Coaches come here to die. Did you just take this job because it's an opportunity, or do you really believe you can win here? Because of the fact that it's just an uphill climb, I give it credit because you do say that, hey, if you're going to go to battle with somebody that understands the situation. You and I are just different in that we believe if there was a tie to the organization, we wanted you gone. We wanted this stripped down to nothing. Like, okay, we got 2 employees at the Lions. We got Sheila Ford and we got Rod Wood. Everybody else, get the fuck out and let's move on. But they didn't do that. They went right back to the family. They went right back to somebody that a situation in which that nobody is really confident in. You went to Chris Spielman, never won anything. Dan Campbell never really won anything, and Brad Holmes, who got to, part of an organization that got to the Super Bowl, but never was the GM in charge of a team that did anything. So this will be a really interesting time for the Lions. I think a lot of people are cautiously optimistic, maybe bordering on skeptical, but I think it's fair. You can only be a fanboy that is all about every decision they make for so long. People realize, okay, you had your pick of Arthur Smith, Robert Saleh, college coaches, Urban Meyer. You had your pick of the litter. This is really at the base level, cuz this is a ballsy ass move to try to put this together. I will give them credit for thinking of it. They're putting their balls on the table because multiple teams could come away with more success than the Lions. You could legitimately see the Falcons, the Chargers, and the Jets having ultimate success, which would be the ultimate rub in the face of Lions fans if multiple coaches that you could have had, 5 to 6 other candidates that you could have brought here, could have success ahead of you. And then it's all gloves off. There will be no positivity. It'll be full on. I am watching every Chargers game to see what Staley does. I'm watching every Falcons game to see the intricacies of what Arthur Smith does. I'm watching every game in regards to the Jets to see what Robert Saleh does. One of those guys has to be successful. And then the Lions will be sitting there left with kumbaya, one pride, yay, let's collaborate. You got to come out and you got to prove everybody wrong and be the smartest guys in the room for once. Is Mike Disner, Rod Wood, and Sheila Ford Hamp the smartest crew in the room? Right now, as we talk, we don't believe it, but if they show it, we will applause. We will give them the applause. We will stand up and say, wow, you did something different. You did the whole collaboration, kumbaya, hug it out type thing. Let's work it out. They don't have to like each other. They don't have to have no nepotism. You put a team together. Good for you. That was progressive. At this point in time, we'll end this portion with this. Colin Cowherd, Joy Taylor, national show, broadcast all over the country. Do you know who they compared Dan Campbell to?
Who? I have no idea.
They came out and said, I'm not seeing how the Lions did this. With all that was available, Colin Cowherd stuck his big mouth into the microphone, and you know what he said? He goes, this reeks of the Browns hiring Freddie Kitchens. And you know the dagger that went through my little heart. I'll send you the YouTube clip. It's funny because they're like, we want Detroit to win. And then when she told him that it was a 6-year deal, he's like, damn, they got a better deal than we got. And he goes, yeah, this reeks of Freddie Kitchens. And I said, oh, Lord, please, please. Even though I'm staunchly Arabic and I would love to see Robert Saleh be the first successful Arabic coach, if that's the team that takes advantage of the hire and the draft pick and you get Freddie Kitchens, it's done, bro. It's done. The vitriol that will come out of my mouth will be unheard across the country. You'll have to tape it because you would have had the opportunity to get the guy. If he hoists the Lombardi Trophy and you got Freddie Kitchens, it's a wrap. The organization will never recover. This has to be a win because you got a lot of fans that are riding on this. You're selling rah-rah, one pride, baby. This has to work. And I just pray this is not a 2-year Freddie Kitchens situation. So I'll put that out there, Detroit. Sorry I said it, but Colin Cowherd said it first. All right, to end this, Urban Meyer gets the job at Jacksonville, and he has his press conference, and seated to his left is the owner, Saad Khan. And that Fu Manchu or that mustache or whatever you call that, I don't think it's a Fu Manchu where it curls up. Whatever that is that he was rocking was sweet as hell. That just screamed to me, boss dictator. And I sent that to you and I posted it on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. And I said, this is an OG look. I like this look. This is OG. This is legit. So when I turn 50, I'm going to try to assemble this thick-ass mustache and have it curl upward and sit there and talk about football on this podcast. That would be awesome. That would be legit. You balled out and you said, hey, that's my guy. But do you think Urban Meyer trolled Jim Harbaugh with the hiring of Trent Baalke? I think that's a real interesting story that you sent me, and I think I know where you're going to go with this. But did Urban Meyer get the best of Jim Harbaugh with the trolling situation?
I mean, for some reason, I feel like there's this deep-seated hatred and animosity between these two, almost like Pete Carroll Pete Carroll hated Jim Harbaugh. Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh didn't get along. For some reason, like this deep-seated hatred of each other, and I think there's still this underlying tension between these two. I don't know if it was a direct swipe at Jim Harbaugh, but I found it quite funny that you can pick anybody in the world. Yeah. You can pick anybody in the world you want to be your GM. And Urban Meyer goes out and picks Trent Baalke to be his general manager in Jacksonville. Like, you have the number 1 overall pick, and you're going out and you're picking Trent Baalke. You're going to trust him with this decision?
Who was the general manager when Harbaugh was the head coach of the 49ers, and he essentially pushed Harbaugh out the door in 2014, and their relationship was described as tense at best.
It's crazy to me that think that's the guy you go with. I mean, I feel like there was a number of people who would have been a better pick to be a general manager of that football team, but you go with Trent Baalke. Like, what the hell are we talking about here? And like, right now I'm doing a search real quick because I want to see how long Trent Baalke was at San Francisco, because the 49ers, when Harbaugh was there, it was a really, really interesting team. They ended up building through the draft through numerous years. And then all of a sudden it just kind of all came undone. And I think it all came undone because of the moves that Trent Baalke made. I think it started to really rise and really get good when Harbaugh came in and he started to put his fingerprints on it, put his stamp on it. And I think Trent Baalke got a little bit jealous, a little bit upset that Harbaugh was getting all of the praise for this. He was there from 2011 to 2016. So he actually had he had quite a few really good draft classes underneath his belt. Basically, the foundation was laid there for Jim Harbaugh to take over and to really get things going in the right direction. But it's weird, man. Like, everybody you could pick, that's the guy you go with? And maybe it is to send a little bit of shade towards Harbaugh to say, hey, look, this is what I'm going to do in the pros, and I'm doing it with the one guy who you couldn't do it with at all. On top of that, you've already seen how I bested you at the college level. I'm just going to ratchet it up a notch, and I'm going to do it at the pro level. I mean, maybe he was taking a shot, but I don't know, man. I find that to be a really interesting pick.
Okay, I'll ask you. I'll put it to you. Who wins a playoff game first, Urban Meyer or Dan Campbell? Both with the same amount of experience, even though Urban Meyer has more clout in the college game. In essence, it's a reach, a guy out of the game Dan Campbell was in the game. Who gets that playoff win first? I'll say this. It has to be Jacksonville just because of the fact that if Lawrence is the transcendent quarterback that everybody says he is, a la Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, if he's in that class of quality quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, that is that guy, then you got a leg up, and it might not have to do with Urban Meyer, but that position yields so much power. The force of Jacksonville and the force of the Lions are both toxic, so it's a real interesting question, but I still would have to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars and Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I'm going to go Jacksonville Jaguars and Urban Meyer all day over Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions just haven't given me anything to trust them to do anything. So,
what percentage chance do you see Dan Campbell lasting into his fourth year?
I'm going to say 97%.
Oh,
and I say that because I think the first year is kind of free. I think it's a gimme. I think where it starts to get a little bit interesting is year 2. So as long as he doesn't lose the locker room between years 2 and 3, I don't see why he doesn't come back for year 4.
Okay, and now if you're Brad Holmes, I think you start to play the chess game right now. Brad Holmes is in a nice position in that, yes, you're smart and you say, oh yeah, Dan Campbell's my guy. Dan Campbell's great. You're usually allowed one more hire after 3 years if it doesn't work out. I think you get the rebuild, you get a sense, you say, hey, we tried it out. I think we're building up. Then you go out and you get your McVay. You get the guy that maybe has had experience but wore out his welcome at the place he was at. I think year 4, if it's not working after 3 years, Brad Holmes can become a straight OG, whack Dan Campbell, and then you bring in year 4 with hopefully a talented quarterback ready to go, an offensive wizard, the next hot thing, somebody that had experience that potentially is on a staff of a great winning organization. Or potentially you let a Mike LaFleur marinate and get out all his mistakes with the Jets. You let him rise up, work magic with Sam Darnold, and then you pinch one of these assistants that rose up and you bring him to Detroit. And then you're Brad Holmes and you guarantee yourself 5 years. I think for sure Brad Holmes lasts longer than Campbell. I think the rah-rah situation wears itself out unless you bring in coordinators that are going to stick with you for 6-7 years. In this day and age, it doesn't happen. Let's see how Dan Campbell learns on the job, but I don't see it. I don't see it working in that manner. I see Brad Holmes being the puppet master. He'll hire his guy. He'll hire the guy that he knows will take this to the next level. I really believe Dan Campbell is the Ron Gardenhire in this situation. Got a 6-year deal, but if he's getting paid $2 million a year, it's nothing. For this organization, if he's getting paid $4 to $5 million, and maybe it's a little bit.
6 years is a long time to commit to a guy.
It is, but if you're paying if you're paying $3 million, that's nothing. 18 overall.
True.
If you're not giving him big money to move on, it's not a problem for this organization. Especially, you can sell it that way. You can say we're right there. We are now one boss coach away from winning. You could sell that to Sheila and Rod pretty easy, real easy. Say, hey, look, and I think partly due to the fact of where it is, Dan Campbell could be kind of being viewed as the Ron Gardenhire, kind of like, hey, let's teach these guys how to play, and then we'll go out and get the OG, because I just don't see it. I don't see Dan Campbell being here when the time comes, because, year 1, year 2 of a young quarterback, is he going to develop under Dan Campbell? That's the key, though. That's the key of what you're looking at here, because you got to kind of align it where you don't have to change systems, because it'll be all messed up.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that's why? Because early speculation in early conversations of who they're looking at quarterback coaches to come in as the offensive coordinator. I mean, you have Darrell Bevell here. He's a guy who has worked with Matt Stafford. If you go out and you get this quarterback guru, or you get this quarterback coach and put him in as your offensive coordinator, does that kind of spell the end for Stafford? Like, hey, we're going to end up moving on. We're going to get a young guy to help develop a young quarterback.
If Stafford sees this, it literally points to, if it's not Bevell at OC, he's got to go. You're gonna stick around for a new head coach, new DC, new offensive coordinator, and 30 new players.
Well, that's the thing too, right? So
it'd be crazy.
Stafford, at what point do you man up and you're just like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going through this again.
No, this year, once he sees that the OC hire will be huge. If it's a first-time quarterback coach, there is no way Stafford looks at this and goes, I'm down for this. He'll get killed. He literally will get harmed because of the fact it's going to be a rebuild, and there's no winning. It's a shame. It'd be like basically year 13 is a wash. That schedule is brutal. You're playing in a tough division. Minnesota is stacked, got double-digit draft picks, I believe, again this year. And then you never know. You could have, Green Bay slip if they win the Super Bowl or they have a hangover. But, bro, Dan Campbell does not scream to me like, yes, here we are, NFC North division champs. It doesn't scream that to me at all. So I would, if you're Matthew Stafford and you see this, you say, you know what, I'm going to supremely help this organization out. We're going to mutually part ways. We'll have a lovely hug-it-out press conference where he can cry and say his goodbyes and act like he did something, and we can get a first and a third. And yes, baby, and that's how you do it. You trade Stafford. You trade your commodity. That's your chip. If you're Brad Holmes, you start calling. He should be on the phone. Colts, what do you got? What do you got for me? What do you need? All right, take it over to the Saints. What do you got? All right, what do you guys need? All right, take it to the Chargers. All right, take it to this team. All right, and start shopping. And you got to figure out what the cap's going to be, and you got to make these numbers match up. Or you sit down with Matthew Stafford and you say, look, probably only got 6 more games in you. You're going to need to groom this kid ASAP, and we're going to do what we got to do to get Justin Fields or whatever quarterback that we think is going to be next. You better draft him at number 7. Otherwise, I don't see, if you're Matthew Stafford, it would be crazy to roll into 2021 with a whole new staff and to be like, I'm ready to go, baby. You're going to get yourself hurt. You're not going to win, and your skills probably will start to diminish. So take advantage of your next 2 years and get to the Colts. I think he should just come out and say, I want to play for the Colts, and just handle your business and get there. I want to play for the Colts. Text that to Brad Holmes. Thanks, Brad. I want to play for the Colts. Because Frank Reich, Matthew Stafford, it give the poor man a chance to succeed and to probably put his name where it needs to be. Decent quarterback, but played on a horrible team should not be the shit that you want on your epitaph. Oh, had a big arm, put up a bunch of numbers, never won a playoff game in 20 years. And like I was telling my wife, Andrea, I said, Andrea, Matthew Stafford embodies everything that is the Detroit Lions. A lot of skill, a lot of things that people like, but nothing to show for it. Nothing. There's nothing to show for it. And he's the guy that was the champion of the Lions, the face of the franchise, a guy that's Mr. Clean, doesn't say anything, doesn't make any noise, but doesn't win anything. That's the embodiment of a Detroit Lion. Literally, that's the guy. This embodies everything that's wrong with why people are mad. You kept him here for a decade. You paid him a boatload of money, and you loved him because he could throw the ball to the receivers. We care about winning. Winning. That is it. That is what the majority of people that do not want him here will tell you. For whatever reason, we're not winning. And so the blessing is, we took this podcast and got to tell her right to her face. And unfortunately, maybe because I did that, they went with the, and they're probably going to do it again today. We have our esteemed media who get to ask first questions. And they're all, they asked all softball questions. I couldn't believe it.
Bro, that esteemed media is Tim Twentyman, who works for the team.
Yeah. Mike
O'Hara, who works for the team. It's guys like
Justin Rogers, Kyle Meinke, and The Athletic, who asked nothing of relevance.
Right. You notice where Burkett was? Burkett wasn't anywhere allowed near any of that. Or Rothstein even.
Yeah. They're like, you guys get 5th dibs. Yeah, exactly. We get the esteemed media. Come on, guys. You're not fooling anybody there. Look, I was impressed. Woodward Sports asked a great question. He bombed. The first legit question comes from the first person that was allowed to ask one. Props to Corey Woods. He's like, he just rolls up there and is like, the difference between the All-Pros of the Rams and the Lion is like very vast. Can you fix that? I loved it. It was great. It was so good. It was so good. But yeah, they at least opened it up to a lot of questions. And it was cool. And I think they'll do the same thing. The esteemed media will ask the questions, and then hopefully a couple of us will get to ask the real pressing question, which is, why would you come here? What's this working relationship going to be like? And how fast, I'm wondering how fast a locker room can turn on a coach, because it seems like the ultimate tough job to get 53 guys on board that's going to play together. It seems like you got to be like a psychologist. I'm going to try. Hint, hint. If you get this early, I'm going to try to drop the word psychologist. And you'll be like, wink, wink. It's from the DSP network. I'm going to try to drop the word. You got to be sort of like a psychologist to do this job, How are you going to manage it? That's going to be probably where I'm looking to angle for my situation, which is going to be, how on earth does a head coach take 53 men and work toward the common goal? It seems like it's a really tough thing. It seems like you got to be a psychologist. I might ask it just like that if I'm allowed. And if you listen to this and you know you're before me, ask it, steal it. It's a great question. So I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait. I think he's going to pump everybody up. I think we're going to have a promo, baby. I think we're going to have an opportunity to go one pride. Let's go. But if you hear in the first video, I don't know if I'm going to read too much into it. Go to the Lions when he signs on their Twitter page. He goes, "What's up, Lions Pride?" And I said, I don't think a lot of people call it that. It's one pride, baby. You got to emphasize it. I want to see if he gets it right this time around. It's not Lions Pride. It's what's up, one pride. And you sign the deal, get that in order, cut your promo. And that'd be great if he just kind of had that booming energy. Dude's 6'5", but he's starting to look his age a little bit. Kind of starting, we'll look at it. He's kind of starting to look like Kevin Green a little bit. Kevin Green, maybe a Goldberg-esque physique, but it's a big dude. So I'll see what type of relationship this will turn into, because he's 6'5", all of 280, thick, muscular. I'm all of 5'3", 200 pounds, all fat. So, so this could be a very unique situation as this next 3 years evolves. We'll see what level of critique we will present from the Detroit Sports Podcast and SI All Lions. Because this was fun.
He's a big strapping dude, bro. So just be careful. Protect yourself. Exactly.
You could see me flying out of Allen Park all too quickly. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. We broadcast every day covering Michigan, all Detroit sports, great content. It's been a fun ride doing this. We get to break down Detroit sports in our own way. Often duplicated, never imitated. We are the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, and it's been a fun ride. Episode 390 coming to a close as we trek toward episode 400. Got to show love to Noah, who's been editing lately, helping me out tremendously. All the hosts and the contributors have made this ride hilarious in regards to all the jokes that we've told, all the inside stuff that we've shared, all the ribbing. I have never had so much fun building this sports community with Adam, Vito, Logan, Daniel, all the contributors that do this. You've made the ride a hell of a ride, and there's nobody else having as much fun as Doc and Jock, no doubt about it. Let's talk soon, cuz.
Sounds good, bro.